Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special event. This is an event put on by the South Broward Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. My name is Dr. Chatachi Egu. I am actually a member of the South Broward Alumnae chapter, and we are pleased to bring you this candidates forum tonight. We're here at the Dania Church of God, and I'd like to give special thanks to the Dania Church of God. There are candidates here. We're going to have a presentation on voter education and things you need to know. So even though this is taking place in Broward County, which is the southeast part of Florida, this is a very important election cycle. So there are things you can probably take away from this. Please share with people, because this is really important. And letting you know that there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. For those of you watching on Facebook Live and on YouTube, welcome. Before we start with our introduction, I'd like to again thank the Dania Church of God for letting us use their space. And also we have some promotional sponsors: the TJ Reddick Bar Association, the Caribbean Bar Association, and the Haitian Lawyers Association. So with that, I am going to throw it to the president of the South Broward Alumnae chapter, Kim Gaines. Kim?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. My name is Kim Gaines, and I am the president of the South Broward Alumnae chapter, and I would like to welcome you to our voter education and candidates forum for this evening. I first want to give thanks to the Dania Church of God, Calvary Restoration Ministries, for welcoming us in their homes. Special thanks to the Bishop Wooten III. Again, thank you for allowing us to host this event in your house of worship and in your community. Many folks have said that this cycle of elections is the most critical election of our lifetime. And I don't know about you, but I cannot believe that we are living in 2018 instead of 1820. With all of the voter suppression reports that you're hearing about all over across the country, I'm just baffled. And this recent act of bombs being sent to our former two presidents, I'm still in shock. And so if your vote wasn't important, people wouldn't try to suppress your vote. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy that you're here, because you have made the best decision in America tonight to be somewhere where you can become informed of the issues and informed of candidates so that you can make an informed choice. Again, I want to thank you for coming, and I'm looking forward to a very, very engaging conversation this evening. Thank you.
Coming to the podium
Good evening. My name is Simon, and I am the Social Action Political Awareness and Involvement Chair of the Broward chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank each and every one of you for coming. So very quickly, program overview. We're going to first have our lead of women voters come and give us information about the proposed Florida constitutional amendments, as well as the Broward Charter proposals that are on the ballot. Thereafter, we'll have a very brief intermission. From there, we will go into, I believe we have a visitor from the Transportation Department that would like to speak about the clean tax, and we'll go from there. Just keep in mind that you are on Facebook Live, you're using technology, you're on YouTube, you'll be able to watch this when you get home, because it'll be saved and available for you to share with your nieces and nephews and all the folks who don't think that we're very good. So with that, let's do a Bloomfield for the women voters. Thank you.
coming to the podium is Linda Bloomfield from the League of Women Voters.
Thank you, and good evening. This is an interactive presentation. As stated, my name is Linda. I am a member of and volunteer for the Broward County League of Women Voters. And on their behalf, I want to thank you for letting us in tonight. up on its centennial in 2020. It started in 1920 when women were given the vote. If I'm giving feedback when I'm talking, somebody just wave at me. So in 1920, the league was formed with the sole purpose of educating these new voters on how to learn about issues and candidates and to have the information they needed to make a good choice. And 98 years later, that is still our mission. We are a nonpartisan organization. We do not support political parties. We do not support political candidates, but we will support issues that we feel are important. Now, all of you should have in your hands a little two-sided, I call it a cheat sheet, with the state constitutional amendments on one side and the Broward County on the other. And if you have the newspaper printed voter guide in there, you will also find the state constitutional amendments with an opinion from the league on whether it should be supported or opposed. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Plus, there are some candidates in the front just by way of introducing you to who's running for the Senate, who's running for the government, etc. So, we got a lot of information. The heaviest part of this presentation is going to be put now on the state constitutional amendments. Broward won't play this off, so I'll play this much. And I want to talk a little bit about the county tax. Although Mr. Walter is here also, so I'll keep it brief so we can have a microphone. And if you have any questions, you will feel free to jump in. So hold on to your hats, here we go. Constitutional Amendment number 1. This was brought to you by our state legislature in Tallahassee. These constitutional amendments come from many sources. The state legislature, the grassroots movements, or the Constitutional Vision Commission, the federal studies to go along. But this first amendment is entitled Increasing the Homestead Property Tax Exemption. So we have homeowners here in the room tonight, and you are all familiar with the homestead exemption as well. So now, if you own a property and you live in that property, if you're primary residence, you get a break on the property taxes. And right now, the way it stands is the homestead exemption. It is goes up to $50,000 for homes valued at $50,000 or more. If Amendment 1 passes, the homestead exemption will increase to up to $75,000 for homes valued at $100,000 or more. So, sounds good, right? Few more dollars in your pocket, pay less taxes. Who likes to pay taxes? Anybody? It's almost not matter to them. Who likes to pay taxes? So this would, in fact, reduce your taxes, your property taxes. This has no effect, by the way, on state taxes. Just property taxes. So what's the problem? The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, we need to pause and we need to think about where those taxes go. Because if Amendment 1 passes, they are estimating the loss of $347 million in tax money. So what is that going to cost you? It's going to cost you because that money trickles down to Broward County, it trickles down to Dana Beach, Hollywood, where I live. It supports our libraries. It supports our public parks. And the next time you're in trouble and you call 911 and you expect the police to show up, they're going to come. They'll get to you as soon as they can. But you have to consider the loss of property tax income may possibly result in the loss of food services. If somebody's got to pay their salary, somebody's got to buy the police cars, or you're calling 911 because you've got a fire in your house. The property taxes are paid for those firefighters, for the fire engines, for that crushing chest pain that just hit you while you were watching whatever you were watching. And you call 911 because you need an ambulance, and they will come because these are the people that come. These are the people that don't say, what do you need? They just come and they take care of you. But this is where your tax dollars go. So it is really important that you weigh the risk and the benefits. The risk of putting maybe, if you're lucky, a couple $100 in your pocket versus the loss of services that money pays for. And needless to say, you can see which way I'm leaning on this. I actually seriously not supporting many people due to the loss of income that will trickle down to other cities. And we'll move along to amendment number 2, state amendment number 2, which is kind of the first cousin to state amendment number 1. This one talks about capping the assessed value on non-homestead properties. Let me back up a minute. A couple of years ago, the Florida voters decided to cap your homestead assessment of 3%, your property assessment of 3%. You remember you voted for something called Save Our Homes. And basically what it means is the value, the assessed value, not the real value, the value that you put on the market, but the assessed value of your property cannot rise more than 3% a year. That's the law now. That's the law you passed. So for people who have a second property that they don't live in, it's a non-homestead property. So we're talking about a second home, maybe a vacation home somewhere on the north coast of Florida, a commercial property, a vacant lot, maybe you own an apartment building. These are all your properties, but they're not the properties you live in. Right now, the assessed value is capped at 10%. So in other words, no matter how much the value of the property goes up, the assessment cannot go up more than 10%. That is due to expire in January of 2019. If Amendment 2 passes, it will make the 10% cap permanent. And again, I ask you to weigh the consequences, the unintended consequences against the benefits of losing almost $700 million from the non-homestead properties in taxes. What are you going to gain? What are you going to lose? We're all very fortunate to live in Broward County, and I'm not saying we don't have pockets of poor folks here, we should do. But the fact of the matter is, for the most part, it's a fairly well-to-do county. Our property values keep going up. I know I've been in this place 20 years now, and the sale value of my property is more than twice what I paid for it 20 years ago. And I think a lot of us are in the same situation. But with that rise in value comes a rise in taxes. But again, you've got to consider where those tax dollars go before you decide to vote yes or no. And again, we will encourage you to vote no on Amendment 2. Now, Amendment 3 is a little easier. This is a one-issue amendment. It is voter approval of casino gambling. So what does that mean? Right now, if somebody wants to open a casino, we're talking card games, slots, casino games. If somebody wants to open a casino, the process to go through the application, and then the final determination, the final approval comes from Tallahassee. If Amendment 3 passes, what this will do is put that decision back in the hands of the voters, which may make a difference to you if it's your neighborhood that they want to open another casino. You may or may not want it there, but right now you don't have a say in whether the casino is established in your neighborhood or not. If Amendment 3 passes, you will have a say because you'll have to vote to approve the casino. Now, there is a little bit of a downside to this. If you put this in the state constitution, then the state of Florida has to vote on this. So somebody in Polk County wants to open a casino, you guys don't know how we vote on it. I'm going to ask you, as I continue to go through these amendments, to keep this in mind. This is the important issue here. Does this issue need to be in the Constitution of the state of Florida, or can the issue be handled by state law? State laws are a lot easier to change than constitutions. When we get to the constitutional amendments that came from the Constitution Review Commission, I will remind you that this commission meets once every 20 years. And their job is to take a look at our Constitution to see if things are planned, to see if something needs to be added, if something needs to be deleted or adapted in some way. And those are the recommendations they bring to the voters. And I'm not saying we have to wait 20 years to change the Constitution, but it is so difficult to change a Constitution. And if we remember hearing about something called the Equal Rights Amendment, that was introduced in 1972, and it's still passing around the states for approval to the United States Constitution. Now, maybe a little bit of an extreme example here, maybe more gender bias than other things, but the point is, constitutional changes do not happen quickly. Laws can be changed. So, does this casino gambling issue need to be in the Constitution or can it be handled by law? Do your homework. Amendment number 4. This one's been getting a lot of airtime, a lot of talk. It's the Citizens Initiative that somebody talking about that before. And after we signed the petition, and it was in cahoots, if you will, with the Second Chances folks, getting the signatures needed to put it on the amendment. But this is for restoration of voting rights. And what this is about is giving voting rights to people with past convictions. Right now, Florida is one of 3 states in the union that does not allow people to vote who have been convicted of a felony, ever, for any reason, unless you go through an appeal process. You have to wait 5 years to even begin your appeal, and then it is taking people between 5 and 13 years to actually get through the appeals process. It's called the clemency process, where they end up eventually in Tallahassee, sitting before the government, and if you select people, present your case, then it is those who select people who determine whether or not they restore the voting rights. So through this process, it keeps a lot of people from being applying. So if Amendment 4 passes, what it will do is restore voting rights to people who have finished serving their sentences, whether they finished it in prison, whether they finished it while they were out on parole, if there was a fine, if someone community service, whatever was attached to the sentence, when they are finished, they will have their voting rights restored. Now, I do remind you that this does not include all of their civil rights, but we talk about voting rights. So these people still may not serve on a jury, they may not hold public office, they may not buy a firearm, etc., etc. But this is strictly for voting. There are 1.5 million disenfranchised voters in the state of Florida. Now, I can't promise you they're all going to vote, but I hope we owe them the opportunity to become part of the community that they're living in and enjoy some of their citizenship. So we're encouraging you to vote yes on Amendment 4. Any questions? I'm going to take a good job. All right. Here's number 5. Now, this one's a little bit of a head scratch, but I confess, I keep coming back to this one time and time again, trying to get my head wrapped around it. What it says is they want to change from a majority vote to a 2/3 vote of the legislature in Tallahassee in order to increase taxes or fees. increase them, decrease them. They want to go from a majority vote to a 2/3 vote. So what does that mean exactly? And therein lies the confusion. I will point out you're getting 2/3 of the House of Representatives and 2/3 of the Senate to agree on the color of the sky is sometimes a difficult thing. So getting them to all agree on raising or lowering taxes or fees, we're talking sales tax, we're talking gas tax, we're talking your firearm license, your fishing license, those kinds of fees. It's going to be more difficult to get anything changed by requiring a 2/3 majority of the House and the Senate to vote on this. The reason most folks are against this is because in times of an emergency, and we have emergencies now, we have hurricanes, windstorms, we have floods, and sometimes we need some money quickly. And getting a 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate could go on for a very long time. So there's a great deal of suspicion on how wise this would be to change it to 2/3. Plus the fact that you have to consider the fact that the party that's got the majority of the seats will then have more control over what is passed than what is not passed. It really makes it difficult for the minority political party to get everything through when 2/3 is required to pass it. And what happens, particularly when it comes to raising taxes, now in 2012, you all had on your ballot, my ballot too, an initiative program called the TABOR, or the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which is very similar to Amendment 5. It's like they, put a fresh coat of lipstick on it and gave it back to you to think about it yet. All right, but you all voted it down in 2012. And part of the problem here is the control of the House and the control of the Senate oftentimes leads to favoritism in changing tax laws. Also, this is just another factor for you to consider. Corporations and wealthy people can get a bigger break depending on which party is in control. And then when it comes time to make the Florida budget, for the rest of us, maybe there's not so much money anymore because their taxes have been reduced and the flow of revenue has dropped. So where do they go for the money to run the budget? Schools, they go into our education budget. They go into our healthcare budget, and they take what I call the soft money, and they move it out of there so that they can have a budget to run the state. Right now, the state of Florida is 26 out of 50 in what we spend on our children going through public schools. The big winner is Vermont. They spend a little over $20,000 per pupil every year. The state of Florida spends a little over $9,000, and the country average is a little over $12,000. So are our kids getting the education they deserve? Are our schools getting the resources they need to teach our kids? We need to think about this before you approve a 2/3 majority to get anything done. Okay, believe it or not, that was the easy stuff. No, that was the easy stuff. Now, what you've all been hearing about on the constitutional amendments are the bungled amendments. This is what's been all over the news, and this is what's been in court. A few of these, I'll tell you, are still in court, even though we're already voting on them. But what happened was the Constitution Revision Commission first met in 2017. There were 37 members, 33 of whom were appointed by the governor. And they sat down and went through our Constitution, what needed amending and what needed deleting, et cetera, et cetera. Commission out on the road, and they visited all the different counties in Florida. They came down here to Broward. They were at Nova Southeastern. And that was an opportunity for the citizens here to get up and speak their piece, to talk to the commission and tell them, yes,
I like that idea. No, I don't like that idea. Or say, hey, here's another idea you guys didn't even think of, and propose your own amendments. So it was an open forum. And eventually what happened was the commission ended up with, I am told, a little over 1,000 amendments to be considered to our Constitution. And by whatever process they used, they whittled it down and whittled it down and whittled it down until we ended up with 26 amendments. And they still thought it was too much for us to handle. So they bundled them. They took 2 or 3, or in one case, 4 separate, unrelated issues and just wrapped them all together in a bundle. Made a nice, tasty taco out of them. And your problem is you get 1 vote. You get to vote yes, or you get to vote no. So if there's something in the amendment you really, really, really want to see pass, and there's something in the amendment you really, really, really don't want to see pass, you got to decide which way to go. In the meantime, ask yourself, does it need to be in the Constitution? Maybe that will help you make your decision on voting yes or no. Because if an amendment fails, there is no reason you cannot go to your representatives in Tallahassee and say, you know, this issue was in the amendment and it failed, but I like it. I think this was a good idea. Can we introduce it as some sort of legislation and get a law passed dealing with the issue rather than putting it in the Constitution? But that is your decision to make. So let's start talking about constitutional amendments 6 through 13. Number 6, also getting a lot of TV time. This amendment has 3 issues in it. You know, excuse me while I dig into my notes here so I don't forget to tell you anything. Amendment 6, the major issue here is Marcy was a woman who lived in California and she was killed by her boyfriend. And then one day, a short time later, Marcy's brother, and I believe it was also his mother, were in a grocery store, and there was the fella who had been charged with her murder. He was out on bail, and they had not been notified. And he got really upset and really angry, and that's what started the Marcy Clause. They started in California as victims' rights. Victims of crime have rights, and indeed they do. And nobody's arguing that. If you have been a victim of a crime, it stays with you. And if you know somebody who's been a victim of a crime, whether it's your spouse or your sibling or your best friend or your next door neighbor, it sticks with you. If somebody broke into your neighbor's house, it scares you. You could be next. So it's like throwing a stone in a pond. There are these ripples. Because victims have right, the result of being a victim reaches out into the community. It reaches out to other people. So if Amendment 6 is passed, what it's going to do is add 5 pages of victims' rights to, and pay attention here, the already existing victims' rights in the state constitution. Victims are not without rights in Florida. They are there, they have been there. What this will do is expand them and give the victims and the rest of the folks associated with the victim more rights. The problem is, at the same time, it deletes a sentence that says victims are entitled to all their rights as long as they don't infringe on those of the accused. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, we have any lawyers in the room? Okay, we've got a couple of lawyers here, and everybody else has watched Law and Order, right? So you know, in this country, we have something called due process. And the purpose of due process is to guarantee you a fair trial if you are accused of a crime. If this amendment passes, this is going to tilt way, way over on the side of the victims. If you're a victim of a crime and somebody is caught and put on trial, assuming you're not a dead victim, you will be part of the trial process. You will come in, you will say what happened to you. And if the person is convicted during the sentencing phase, then all your friends and relatives can have a say as well on how this crime affected them. If this law passes, all those folks and all the things they have to say could end up in the trial process itself, which is seriously going to infringe on the accused person's rights. So, not a good idea on the whole. You need to weigh what's more important here. Plus, another part of this Marcy's law that would be introduced to the Constitution if passed is a cap on the number of years a convicted person can appeal their sentence. They're going to cap it at 2 years for civil crimes and 5 years for capital crimes. Now, we all know, because we've all heard stories of people convicted of serious capital crimes like murder, they're on death row, and it's decades in the appeal process, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because our courts move very slowly. And if there's one mistake you don't want to make, that's the one before you take someone's life. So the appeals process has a purpose. If it gets capped at 5 years, then what's going to happen is they don't say. It's like a half a sentence. Was that for me? I'm done in 5 minutes. The second part of Amendment 6 is changing the judge's retirement age from 70 to 75. This will not affect current judges. But what it will do is affect current trials if this passes, because if you're hearing a case and you turn 75, you have to step down right in the middle of the case. There's no, right now the judge can finish the case, but with the new constitutional amendment, they cannot. The third part of the law is, this is the good part, this is the hard part, where you want this and you don't want that, okay? Right now, if a law or rule is passed, it's always, it can be up to a government agency to interpret it. So let's say you're in charge of Department ABC, and this new law passes and it affects your department. So you read it and you talk to your people and say, okay, this is what it means and this is how we're going to implement it. But in the meantime, you don't like it at all. You're not putting up with this. So you sue them. Right now, the judge can go to you and say, tell me about this law. Tell me about this interpretation. Tell me what it means. If this passes, the judge has to do his own homework. He may not refer to the agency to interpret it for him. Okay. That was number 6. Number 7. I'm sorry, do I really have 5 minutes here? We'll never get done. Number 7, first responders, survivor benefits, public colleges and universities. If this amendment passes, it will grant military survivors, police survivors, firefighters, paramedics, anybody who was killed in the line of duty, it will guarantee their survivors a death benefit and may alleviate certain educational expenses like tuition for their family if they go to college. It's a wonderful idea. It's a very heartwarming idea. It's a great thank you to people who take care of us. It also already exists. This is a redundancy. The military takes care of their own. The police and fire have programs in place for survivors. Number 2, requiring a supermajority by university boards to raise fees. We're going back to that same supermajority issue that we talked about earlier, or 2/3. I am not talking about tuition. Tuition is set by the state, but we talked about how education funds are taken from the budget and put somewhere else. leaving these schools, universities, and colleges really tight for money. So they raise other fees. They raise room and board fees. They raise book fees. They raise athletic fees. If they need a 2/3 majority to raise all these fees, we're cutting them off at the knees. We've got to give them some wiggle room to find the money to run when the state doesn't supply it. And the third part would be adding the 2-year colleges to the state constitution. The state constitution already has a program. It already has laws for 4-year colleges and universities. This would simply pull the 2-year schools in with it, and it isn't really going to make any difference in the end. Amendment 8 is not on your ballot. The Supreme Court of Florida threw it out. And indeed, thank you. And all right, number 9, this one's pretty easy. 2 issues to ban offshore drilling and to ban vaping in indoor workspaces. You all know what vaping is, and all the electronic cigarettes. I guess a lot of folks have given up tobacco are using those, and they're smoking indoors, and nobody likes it. So they want to include the vaping and the tobacco ban in the Constitution. That's for indoor smoking. And the offshore oil and gas drilling in Florida waters. Florida waters extend 9 miles off the west coast of Florida, 9 miles off the south coast, and 3 miles off the east coast. Now, off the east coast, once you're out the 3 miles, you're in international waters. But on the other side, you're in the Gulf of Mexico, where they can drill. It's federal water. So the question is, do you want them in Florida waters drilling for oil? We can't do too much about the federal waters because well, all the fireworks have been going off over the last 2 years over here on this side of Pennsylvania Avenue, okay? Over here, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has slowly, quietly been deregulating pollution control, oil drilling. They want to drill in the national parks. They're getting permission to drill in national parks for oil now. If you vote yes on this amendment, you will at least keep them out of Florida waters. You will send a message that it's not okay to drill in Florida waters. Number 9, this is your big one. Ready? This one has 4 separate issues in it. 4. Issue number 1 requires the legislature to retain the Department of Veteran Affairs. Right now, the Constitution says we shall have a Department of Veteran Affairs. If this passes, it will say we must have a Department of Veteran Affairs. If you're changing one word from shall to must. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd be hard-pressed to believe any language change is going to make the Department of Veteran Affairs go away. I cannot wrap my mind around a single politician that would even suggest it without committing political suicide. So, not necessary. The second part, they want to put in the Constitution that on even numbered years, the legislature starts in January instead of March. Now, you know our legislature only meets 60 days a year, right? That's what you elect them for, 60 days a year. On the even number years, by habit, they meet in January to March. Do you know why? Come on, what do we do in even numbered years? We vote. Even numbered years are election years. So they start the session earlier so they can get done and get out and campaign for their offices. In the odd numbered years, it starts in March. They're already doing it. This does not need to be a constitutional issue. The third part, create an Office of Domestic Security and Counterterrorism within the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is the umbrella organization over all our law enforcement down here, including those departments of counterterrorism that are busy at work, especially since 9/11. All you're doing is creating another department to do the same thing and report to the same agency. The last part, this is a little more complicated. The Constitution they want to do. This is what you want to do in your county. If this passes, you will be mandated to have these 5 positions, whether you want them or not, and you will be mandated to elect them. People opposed to this feel that they are taking local decisions away from us and giving it to Tallahassee, and therefore we cannot support this amendment. Number 11 is just cleaning up some language, basically. There's been language in the Constitution since 1926 that prohibits non-citizens from buying or owning property in Florida. Well, that didn't work out, did it? Okay, it was never enforced, but we need to take the language out and make it go away. It also deletes language requiring the high-speed rail. You guys voted for a high-speed rail in 2000, and then in 2004 you changed your mind, but the language never came out of the Constitution, so we're just cleaning that up. The third part will delete a provision that forces the state to prosecute criminals under the law they were originally charged. Okay, what does that mean? That means I stop talking now. She said, no, time's up. You want to hear the rest of the sentence? Okay. That means if you get arrested on Monday and the crime you're charged with has a mandatory 20-year sentence and you're convicted, and then on Wednesday you change the law and it's now a 15-year sentence, they're deleting the provision that would allow you to be prosecuted under the current law. And it doesn't talk at all about people who are already convicted. So if you're already in prison on a 20-year sentence and the law changes, it doesn't address that at all. All right, number 12, quick. Expands ethics rules for elected officials and government employees from 2 years to 6 years as the amount of time they have to wait to lobby when they get out of office. So right now, when you're done with your job, your public official job, you have to wait 2 years to lobby the state or the feds. This will expand it to 6 years. It will also expand the positions that may not lobby to include, presently not included, but to include the governor and judges and a sundry of other public officials. And it also will restrict people who are currently in public office from gaining, and this is the language, a disproportionate benefit for themselves and their families. And I don't know what's disproportionate. I don't know how much money you can put in your pocket while you're in office before it becomes disproportionate. You need to think about that. And the last one is the ban on wagering on dog races. And this is a ban on wagering. It is not banning dog racing per se, but as you all know, it will in fact put an end to dog racing because, I mean, who goes and watches dogs run around in circles if you can't get up? Okay. If there's a venue there where there's, card games or slots or anything else, it won't affect them. This is just on the dogs themselves. And the issue was raised by the anti-cruelty people who feel that the dogs are not being fairly treated. Okay, I have just shoved 13 amendments down your throat. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I guess I'm not going to talk about Broward County. We don't have time. Okay. But I am going to slip in one sentence on the penny tax because this is important. Okay, this is Broward County, and maybe I should leave it. You want to talk about it instead of me? All right, it's called a penny tax because they're asking you for another penny for every dollar you spend. So our sales tax in Broward County, which has not been raised in a millennium, will go from 6% to 7% for a period of 30 years. And what it is for Broward County infrastructure. That means this money stays in Broward County. They will be developing an oversight committee to assure that it stays in Broward County. And there is a website from the county, pennyfortransportation.com, Please go visit it. It will talk to you about the benefits of this. I wish I had more time because this is so important and I could tell you why, but apparently you're gonna have to figure it out for yourselves. But please see me, I'll stick around for a while.
Good evening, everyone. Did you learn a lot? I want to thank you to the individuals for coming out. It's such an important time. We're trying to cram a lot to give you as much information as we can. And she's going to stick around and have
right now is Teacher Shaw Wilder.
The amendments. Please use it. It's a wonderful resource. I want to ask you to bear with us. We're going to change the schedule a little bit because we have so much we want to get to you. We have candidates here who are busy. It's a busy time, so we're going to change it up a little bit. And skip intermission for now, and we're going to go into the candidates forum, start that, I'm going to do a break. We're going to skip the break and get as much done as we can. Is that okay? Is that okay? Thank you. All right. My name is Teacher Shaw Wilder. I am the Vice Chair of Social Action Committee with South Broward Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our moderator for the candidates forum this evening. Our moderator is Yolanda Cash Jackson. She is an attorney, a lobbyist, a shareholder with the prestigious law firm of Becker Polyakoff. Now, if I spent time to go through her resume, I'm going to be getting that time's up sign, so I'm not going to do that. But I will say this. Miss Yolanda Cash Jackson is our soror. She is one of the most powerful and influential lawyers in this state. She is friends with the powerful. She is a defender of the powerless. She has her ear to the ground and she knows everything going on from Tallahassee to South Florida. It's my pleasure to turn this mic over and the candidates forum to Yolanda Cash Jackson.
Coming to the podium now is Yolanda Cash Jackson,
Thank you so
attorney.
much. Good evening. Good evening. This is so exciting, and we are Facebook Live. So I'm going to ask you to take your phones and you can go ahead and share it so that we can get the word out throughout the state. So we are on a time frame, but I am given the opportunity and the pleasure to introduce one of our candidates now. Let's make sure this is nonpartisan. Delta Sigma Theta is a not-for-profit organization. We don't endorse candidates. And we are very impartial. I myself am a Republican, and so I love everybody who loves me. But we did invite many candidates and some chose to come and some chose not to come. And we're just saying that we'd like the ones to choose to come. So without further ado, we have, as you know, a very full ballot on November 6th. And one of the folks that will be on that ballot is Representative Sean Shaw, State Representative Sean Shaw, who is running for Attorney General. Once again, we did invite his opponents, and since they're not here, I will not mention their names. But, well, I will mention their names. Okay. There is Ashley Moody, who is a Republican running for the office of Attorney General, and Mr. Susskind, who is an independent, no party affiliation, is running for Attorney General. This young man I have known as he served in the legislature, and I'm going to let him come up and tell some things about himself. We won't ask him any formal questions, but we'll give him a few minutes to tell us why he's running. Without further ado, Representative Sean Shaw running for Attorney General for the state of Florida.
Representative Sean Shaw, Attorney General candidate, coming to the podium.
I'm a member of the Mega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated myself. And I don't get to look so much when I'm running, so I'll do it when I can. I'm sorry that I changed your schedule, and I appreciate you allowing me to come up and speak a little bit. Let me just say we're on the cusp of history in this state. The November 6th is a chance to change this state in a way that we haven't seen in decades. And look, I'm convinced that I'm going to be the next Attorney General of the state of Florida. And that is a big deal. And you know, I had a debate with my Republican opponent 2 nights ago, and I can't tell you what we agreed on because it wasn't much. And we disagreed on not only how the office ought to run, but what you ought to use the power of the office to do. And if you've heard me speak, you've heard me say that I intend to be the most aggressive Attorney General, not only in the history of this state, but in the country. We're doing some things when I become Attorney General. And number one on it is we're going to lead the lawsuit to end the Affordable Care Act. That is something that we will lead the minute I'm elected. I'm not going to continue a partisan lawsuit to get rid of Obamacare because it's already been determined that that's a lawful rule, it's a lawful statute, and I think you ought to be protected from being discriminated against if you have a pre-existing condition. And the state of Florida won't be a part of that lawsuit anymore. Second thing I'm going to do is push to repeal Stand Your Ground. And this is a point of contention we disagreed on in a huge way. If you saw what happened to Brother Marquise in Clearwater in a gas station parking lot, when he was standing his ground on behalf of his family, and someone else initiated a confrontation with him, and that man was gunned down in front of his family and shot on video. He took 4 steps backwards and was shot, and the man that did the shooting did not go to jail. He stayed and spent the night with his family. That ought not be the law of the state of Florida. And let me tell you, the minute me and Andrew get elected, that's going to be repealed. That's awful. What I saw in that video was not right. And that's why these elections matter. If you want changes like that, then not only do you vote for me, you got to get out and get other people to vote for me. And you got to make sure that you turn out everybody, because if you want it to remain the same, don't do anything. If you want it to remain the same, don't work hard, because that's what got us what we have up in Washington, D.C. But if you want to change, you want criminal justice reform. If you don't believe all kids ought to be charged as adults, if you believe we ought to build substance abuse centers rather than jails all the time, that's what elections do. That's why elections matter. If you believe, I know we're going to hear from some school board members, if you believe public, let me say the word again, public education ought to be adequately funded, you got to change what's going on up there. You're not going to change what goes on in this state unless you vote for change. And change is on the ballot. You can go from Rick Scott to Andrew Gillum, from Pam Bondi to Sean Shaw. That's change. But we need you to put in the work for the change. Because if you don't, you're going to get the same old result. And if you saw Andrew's debate last night, I am scared. One, yeah, I didn't dog the hollow one. But two, if what DeSantis was talking about on stage didn't scare you to death, I don't know what would. If that doesn't tell you how hard you need to work because that man might become the next governor, nothing I can do on this thing can tell you any different. You have to vote for change. And that's what these elections are about. There is no bigger change from me and Pam Bondi. I don't believe in nothing she believes in. I don't want to run an office like her. I disagree about her in style and substance in every way. I think she's run the Attorney General's office like she's the general counsel to the Republican Party. It's not how we're going to run the office. I'm not going to run it like I'm the general counsel to the Democratic Party. I'm running for Attorney General. That is the independent watchdog in this state that holds everyone accountable under the law. If you're committing fraud on the street, if you are someone, if the legislature is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and if you're the president of the United States, no one is above the law. That's what type of attorney general I intend to be. I ain't shy about it. I don't cover it up. I'm very open with what I intend to do and how I intend to run the office. That's change. But you got to vote for it. And you got to work for it. You got to work for it. This is the next 12 days are the most important 12 days that we're going to vote on probably ever in this state. The next 12 days are going to be the nastiest 12 days you've ever experienced politically in this state. And there's a reason. Because some people don't want change. Some people like exactly what is going on. Some people like Stand Your Ground. Some people like Lake Okeechobee being choked with pollution. Some people like the state of our current public education system. Some people do not want criminal justice reform. Some people like it just as it is. That's what we're up against. And that's why these next 12 days are so important. And we're doing everything we can to travel around this state. I'm driving to Orlando right now, and in the morning we're going to do this again. And I will do everything in my power the next 12 days to make sure that we make this come and bring it home. And I need you all too. I need you to not only vote, but when you vote, you're not done. I need you to get 5 people to vote. And then on election day, drive people to the polls. That's what kind of change this election is about. This is not a normal election. This is not a normal slate. This is change on the ballot. Change isn't always on the ballot. And it's certainly not always on the ballot in Florida. It's on the ballot this time in all these races. And we need you. This is all hands on deck. They're not going to give this up without a fight for these next 12 days. But imagine how you could feel on this November 6th if we do this. Imagine how you're going to feel that you've taken your state back and the people are now in charge of these offices. Imagine that. Imagine what it'll feel like when you go to an inauguration for the first African-American governor, the first African-American attorney general. Imagine what that feels like. And the historic, it's not lost on me that Andrew and I are African-American and it's historic. I get that. That's not the history of this election. The history of this election is that we believe this state ought to be moving in a different direction and our vision for this state is better than theirs. That's the history of this election. That's what will make the history on November 6th. And what will also make the history is that Andrew and I are the best qualified people running our offices. So I'm not telling you to vote for me because I'm black. I'm telling you to vote for me because I'm the best qualified person running for attorney general. That's what and so I would tell you, I need you. We all need you. Florida needs you. Because I don't want to wake up and feel like I woke up November 2016. I don't want to wake up thinking I could have done more. I want to wake up thinking I could have given more, I could have called more, I could have knocked on another door. Do not feel like that. I want you to feel like you did everything you possibly could to make this election go the right way. And if you do that, we'll win. If you do that, we will win. And it will not be a win for Gillum. It will not be a win for Shaw. It will not be a win for Ring and Reed. This will be a win for Florida and the environment and young people and our future. That's what this is about. So I hope that you will join us in these next 12 days. I hope you will help us bring it home. And on November 6th, I want to look forward to a whole new day in Florida. Thank you. Thank you, Delta.
Thank you so much. Let's give them another round of applause. So I'm going to do a little commercial break here as our school board candidates come up next. We'll ask you to come and have a seat. School board candidates. One of the things that Representative Shaw mentioned was the other people on the ballot. It is very, very important that you vote the entire ballot. We'll start out with the U.S. Senators, and then it'll go all the way down to those constitutional amendments that were talked about, and all the way down to the things that are going on in Broward County. It is important that you vote for everything on the ballot. Everything on the ballot. It's important that you look at your ballots. There are sample ballots online, that you look at those before you leave so that you know what you're doing and you don't get frustrated and you vote for everything on the ballot. Okay? All right, I'll make that announcement again. At this time, we are going to have our school board candidates, school board District 1. And I'm going to give some ground rules. We will allow questions. I have some questions, and we'll have a few questions from the audience at the end. I would ask you
So we're about to hear from school board candidates Anne Murray and Jim Silverdale. Again, Broward County School Board candidates Anne Murray and Jim Silverdale.
All right. So I am going to start, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself, and I'm going to start with the incumbent, Anne Murray. You can use that microphone there.
No, I like standing. Okay, great. Notice I'm not in Charles Chandler. But I'm so happy and thrilled to be here tonight and to share with you my philosophy of being a school board member for District 1. This is a nonpartisan race. I have sat for 10 years. When I first came aboard, realized that I have 5 children educated in the school system. And I had children that were special needs. I had a child that was gifted. I had a child that went to college, and I had a child that went to vocations. So I was well versed in what children needed. And I thought, well qualified with my 30 years experience behind me, work within the system. So when I came aboard, I ran on change. I didn't realize what change meant at that time. When I got inside, where I thought I knew so much, I knew so little. And it took a lot of effort, collaboration, and working with staff to move this stiff system to where we are today. When I became a board member, 73% graduation rate. I have the bragging rights of saying my 4 high schools in District 1 are 94%. That was hard work. I've been accused of not having the zest of the fire. Believe me, I have climbed mountains. I'm ready to climb more mountains to provide each and every child with a quality education, no matter what zip code they live in. And that is my
Country, South Broward, and Olson Middle School and Broward College. I've worked for the Federation of Public Employees for the last 26 years, working alongside the non-instructional people in our school district, the ones that are the foundation in the school district, our bus drivers, custodians, our cafeteria workers, and our maintenance people. The reason I wanted to run is that people came to me and said, Jim, you're a leader. I'm past president of the Dania Beach Lions Club. I started the New Hollywood Lions Club. I'm also very active in our churches here. I'm out in the community every day, and I have the zest and the fire to do it. Reason I'm running is that you cannot be a school board member when you don't attend 30% of the meetings. When you miss that many meetings, you are missing a lot of important issues that are going on in our District 1. We are not getting the resources here in our district. So I ask you right now to remember me, Jim Silverdale, vote for District 1 School Board. Thank you.
All right, I have a few questions. And once again, we're going to ask you to limit your answers to about 2 minutes. I will ask the question back and forth. And so the first question, we'll start with you, Mrs. Silverdale, since we started. Jim? Yeah, Jim is fine. What motivates you to want to continue or to serve, rather, on the school board?
Okay. I'll tell you what, my whole life has been revolved around service. You have to, because I care, and you have to give in life. You can't always receive. And I've been very lucky in my life working with so many wonderful people. The reason I wanted to run is that 4 years ago, people asked me to run for this office. And I said I couldn't because I was taking care of my mother who had a stroke, who passed away 2 years ago. Those same people, parents, business people, came to me and said, Jim, would you run for this district school board? And I said, yes, I would. I've always given in my whole life. And that's one of the reasons why I want to make things better. I want to bring all the communities together. We are fragmented. We do not work together. Sometimes the school board is like a bubble. And we have to do better in our district.
Thank you. Thank you. The question is, what motivates you to continue to serve on the school board?
Well, first of all, I have fire in my belly for what I do. You know, I put kids first. It isn't about the adults within the system. We have unions that take care of all of non-instructional people and our teachers. And the school board does a very good job with the money that the state gives us, which is very little. But my concentration is on our students and what's best for them. I know that when I first looked at this, out of the 23 schools I have here in the South area, well, it's 32 really, and 18 charter schools, that Title I money, which supplements our most needy schools, which I have, all my schools but one are Title I schools, that money was supplanted in the budget. With the arrival of Robert Runcie, we were able to make sure that the schools got their adequate budgets plus the Title I program. When you look at the ratings of our schools, Collins Elementary, although it has an I right now, is an AB school, one of the lowest economic areas in District 1, and they are outshining not only the schools in Broward County, but throughout the state. And that's what I'm about. I want to make sure that every child, no matter what zip code they live in, get the opportunity to be successful. Our next move is something that I started 4 years ago, along with being first, to give children who came across the stage of graduation an opportunity to find out what they really wanted to do because they had no direction. I said 4 high schools in District 1 started. Last year we had 12. This year we're moving to every high school in Broward County beyond this plan that we can identify that 30% of students that have no direction.
Discussion of whether or not our school board superintendent was doing his job. What do you see as the role of the superintendent, and how do you work with the superintendent, or in your case, Jim, how would you work with the superintendent? No, you go first.
Okay. As you know, we all just finished our evaluation of the superintendent. Again, he received a satisfactory evaluation. Many people look at the tragedy that happened to Stoneman Douglas as somebody's fault. There's only one person that's at fault for what happened to Stoneman Douglas, and that person is in jail. We are right now evaluating. We have experts coming in from all over the country to say, have we done our job right? As of our last meeting, they said we have surpassed most of the school districts in this country, and that by the time we get finished in the next 5 years, that we will lead the country in securing our schools for safety. I can remember when we put the first 6-foot fence around Hollywood Hills High School, and parents were ballistic. You're making my school look like an institution. I can remember when we brought SRO officers and minorities were concerned that now you're putting a law enforcement on school grounds and my child can be shot. Then we put cameras in and people said, well, invading my privacy. Today they want metal detectors, 6-foot fence, more cameras. Times are changing. The whole world is changing. And this school system, along with the 8 other women that I serve with, and we're all moms. We all have children at different ages and different stages. And believe me, the safety and welfare of all our children and all our staff and family is utmost important. Robert Runcie has carried that message very clear to everybody in Broward County. I've hired him and I support him. Do I agree with everything he has done? Not always, but we always come to an amicable decision of what's best for our children. And that's the one thing that this gentleman focuses on. He doesn't get mixed up in politics. He does what's best for each and every child in Broward County.
You want to ask Jim the same question? Yeah, same question. The question is, what do you think the role of the superintendent is, and how would you work with it?
I think the superintendent in Broward County does a wonderful job. The superintendent needs to focus on the administration. The superintendent should take his direction and policy from we're the policymakers of the school board now. That's one of the things that we have to do. And some of the times is that when it comes to safety, we understand what happened to Stoneman Douglas, but there was a whole breakdown of everything. I don't blame the superintendent. It's the whole thing in the system. What happens is in the system, we have these silos. What I'm talking about is bringing departments together and people together. We can't always do everything with a cell phone and email. We have to communicate with each other. And that's one of the things that I would do as a school board member. We have to bring more people together. You have to care and you have to really work at things. And it's not just broad brush things. Things have to be done. And people are scared out there. Our administrators are nervous. Our teachers are nervous. We have turnover with teachers in the school. Our kids are nervous. We don't want to make our schools a prison, but we also want to make our schools safe.
You keep the microphone. Next question. You all have been campaigning against each other for a while. What is the biggest difference between you and Ms. Murray? And then Ms. Murray, I'm going to ask you what you think is the difference between you and Jim.
I think the difference about me is that I was born and raised in this area. I went to Dane Elementary. I went to Olson. I went to South Broward. I work with people. I work with a lot of people. I work with administrators. I work with teachers. I work with the community constantly, helping anything that we can do to make it better. What I think we need to do is, and where I see the difference is, I really care. And my whole thing is bringing everybody together. I'm tired of the fragment. I want people to work together. I don't care what color, creed you are, we're gonna work together, and I'm here to help. And I think that's one of the things that I can do. Also, I'm out in the community, and there's been a lot of things that months. I'll be with all the not the superintendent, they call the board member's office, they don't get phone calls back. That happens constantly. I hear that over and over and over. There's a disconnect between our District 1 school board member, then the other school board members who are out there in the community constantly. You can't just go to the schools is one part of it. You need to be out in the community. I've been to many of the churches. I've been to so many community events. God bless you all in the kitchens. That's why I'm so big. I've eaten so much. I can't leave unless you feed me. So that's one of the big reasons. And I care. And I was raised in this community, and I know people, and I can do a better job.
I've lived in Broward County 50 years. My husband and I moved here in '68. My husband worked for Eastern Airlines. We brought our children with us. I'm older than Jim by about 25 years. So the time that we have spent, if you look at my history, and if you looked at my background, gone on my website and saw my history of what all I have been involved in, far out exceeds my candidate that says I don't do anything. I was a coach, softball and soccer. My organization started soccer in Broward County. Look where it is today. My husband and I and many others who were there for the kids. So my focus has always been on the kids. I have led the way in my community when we built our community center, when the mayor at that time said we couldn't have it. And we have a beautiful, one of the most nice, complete facilities at Boulevard Heights Community Center. We have everything there, including a pool, skateboard, everything. It's the only one in Hollywood that has that facility. We work very hard, and I'm very proud of the effort that we made with my leadership. I was a founding member of the Federation of Public Employees. We started off with 25 memberships. Look where the Federation is today. Jim benefits salary-wise from that. So my efforts, wherever I have been and whatever organization I've been with, have made a difference in Broward County. I fought for women's rights back in 1982 in the school system, brought a lawsuit to the union and won. And that sits on the books today. And I was still employed in the system. Why? Because I felt I won my case. I wasn't interested in suing and getting a lot of money. Stayed in the system, retired after 30 years. My community asked me in 2007 to run. And I said, you know, being a politician is a nasty game. I said, people will take you apart for the least little thing. But you know, I looked at what needed to be done and I went for it. And I've been sitting there and I have made those changes that the community has wanted. We've had ed talks, community meetings. I meet with people in the grocery store, Denny's. I have 3 meeting places in my community where people can meet up with me. And it's usually Dunkin' Donuts. I have 3 locations. So the thing is to say that I don't communicate with my people, that's not right. That's not fair. My kids love me. A young boy to be a paramedic. And he said, Miss Murray, he came over, he gave me a big hug, and I said, you know this young fellow? I said, no, sir. He graduated from MacArthur High School in 2018. So my roots are deep, solid, and community-based.
Very good. And this is the final question. I know that in Tallahassee, we deal a lot with voucher and the use of public funds for private charter schools. What is your view of the situation in Broward with private charter schools, and what would you do to try to change that?
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, we have the 504, which gives parents the rights to put their child anywhere they want, and that sits on the books, and that's a choice. We have a statute that says parents have the right to choose where their children go to school. Before charter schools came along, we had many private schools, and no one raised their head other than we have continuously said no funding for private schools. The legislature were very cute the way they established charter schools and made us believe, or made the community believe, $50,000 to start up. They're funded by our FTE money that funds our regular traditional public schools. We're not against charter schools. We're not against vouchers. Parents have the right to choose where they want to send their children. We want to make sure that it's a level playing field, that the legislators, as they make some of these rules and regulations, that they don't empty and totally destroy our schools. This election is so important to everyone, that we have the right people in place that understand what's going on here and where the money is. The thing with our charter schools, we out there in Tallahassee all the time, talking with just not just to make and the time to a minimum amount of money and then leave our most needy schools important to us as educated board members to know what the real story is and to be able to fight for our children in our traditional public schools.
Okay. Can you repeat the question again?
As you know, we have a concern with vouchers and money, public money going to private schools. What is your view on the use of that money and how would you?
I do not like charter. I do not like vouchers. That's one of the problems. See, that's one of the issues. We have competition now with public schools. And if we don't bring the needs to our people in the community, we lose kids out of our public school. So that's done in Tallahassee right now. So we're losing kids to public education going into charters. And it's not an even playing field. It's not apples to apples, orange to oranges. If you have children with disabilities, the charter school doesn't have to take them. If you have kids that are disruptive, they don't have to take them in the charter school. So they get the cream of the crop and we don't. And the issue is that it's not fair. I would like to see this change. I don't have anything against parents. Parents have a right to put their children where they want to. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with bleeding out public education because that's the equalizer for everything. And thank God for the League of Women Voters. Amendment 8 was a big one because that would have been term limits and more money in the charter schools. So yes, I would like to see a whole different change when it comes to vouchers.
All right, we're going to give you 30 seconds each to tell this audience why they should return you, Ms. Murray, or Jim, have you to serve on the school board. And Jim, we're going to start with you, and then Ms. Murray goes out.
Like I said, my name is Jim Silverdale. I was born and raised in this community. I know a lot of you personally. I've worked with you over the years, and I have the compassion and the drive to do this. We've been in early voting. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. We've been out in early voting every day and out there working, talking to the constituents, and out there getting the vote out. And that's what's the most important thing. So please remember Jim Silverdale, School Board District 1, when you go out and vote, and make sure you all vote. Everybody in this room better vote. That's all. Voting is important. Thank you.
It's a busy day for all of us. But you know, I've been in office for 10 years and some people think that is enough. Well, I still have that fire in my belly to continue on. I think I have proven myself with the changes in our schools, the improvements we've made, and I'm asking you to vote for me again because I still have that fire in my belly. I still know what our children need. We are not even close to accomplishing the things we need to assure that every child graduates with a either college bound or a career opportunity. So again, I'm asking you to vote for me, the most qualified candidate running for District 1. Thank you.
No, just the name.
Okay.
Just vote for Jim.
Just vote for Jim. Yeah. All right. Well, we thank you very much. Let's give them a vote. Well, once again, my commercial, we're going to vote the entire ballot, correct?
Yeah.
From top to bottom. Starting with the U.S. Senator, all the way down to the amendments. Don't forget, you'll hear my voice when you try to sleep at night. At this time, we're going to ask Chris Walton from the Transportation with County to come up. He's going to talk very briefly. He's not a preacher. We're going to ask Chris Walton to talk about the civic tax, and then next we'll hear from the judicial candidates.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And first, let me just be very clear.
At the podium now is Chris Walton, the Director of the Transportation Committee of Broward County.
I just want to make a few points about the penny sales tax on the ballot in November 6th. But first, I have a question for all of you. Just by show of hands, how many of you enjoy driving into Miami during rush hour? Your hands went up, and I did not expect to see any hands go up. But I'm here to tell you that if we don't do something about our transportation and our traffic problems in Broward County now, that's exactly where we're headed as a county. There's really basically three things I want you to remember when you go to the polls and when you think about this transportation surtax. The issue with public transportation is that you have to have vision. You can't just look at conditions as they exist today. You need to think 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Think about the type of transportation and transit infrastructure environment that you want your kids and your grandkids to have. There are certain things that we should have done years ago to prepare for now, and we didn't do it, so we're really behind the curve. But again, just a few points I want to make. Traffic congestion is choking Broward County. If you've lived here for any length of time, you know that your own personal commute has probably increased year. Oh, okay, is that better? Can you hear me? Okay. Do I need to start over? Say no. But I don't think I had that kind of time anymore. But very briefly, we need to address our traffic concerns. The sales tax was raised over the course of 30 years, $15.6 billion does just that. It improves our traffic synchronization and signalization by a lot of advanced technologies. Fiber optics will be laid throughout the county. It would allow us to adjust our traffic signals and coordinate our signals in real time based on traffic conditions at the moment. It does sidewalk improvements, lighting improvements, drainage improvements. So the transportation infrastructure side, it makes a lot of improvements for the county. Second, on the public transportation side, we do not provide nearly the public transit services in this county that a county of this population and this density needs to have. Basically, when I compare us to other transit systems across the country of similar size and similar population, they typically have about 150 buses more than we do. Now, our plan over 30 years calls for us to go from the fleet right now of 359 buses out to 632 buses. It also improves public transportation for our seniors and for our youth. So I want you to remember, I mentioned $15.5 billion of this program was raised over 30 years. About 30% of that, or actually over 30% of those dollars will be raised. Those of us that live here in Broward County won't be required to carry the entire weight of this program. So what I would suggest you do, and I have a lot of documentation I left in the back, is there is a website, it's called Penny for Transportation, and it provides the entire detail of what you would need to know to understand this program. It has a 30-year funding plan. It identifies all the traffic projects, all the road projects, and all the transportation improvements on the public side, public transportation improvements that the program pays for. I would encourage you to go take a look at that. And if there's any questions, there's numbers you can call. So with that, I'm not going to take up, and we've got a lot more candidates to hear from, and I've been instructed, and I know, one of the things when I'm in church, and I've been told to be brief, I will certainly do that. So, take my seat.
Thank you very much. You must be a good Baptist. You have to have some humor, right? So at this time, we'll ask the judicial candidates, as I call your name, if you will come forth. Stephanie Camille, Judicial Circuit, Group 38. H. James Curry, Circuit Judge 17th Judicial Circuit, Group 46. Maria Weeks. Maria Weeks. We have a surrogate for Maria Weeks. Okay. Then we have Tanner Demery, County Court Judge, Group 9. I tell you what.
Which?
Yes. And we have Jackie Powell, County Court Judge, Group 19. And then we have a surrogate for Allison Gilman, County Court Judge, Group 19. Represented by Richard Castillo.
Thank you.
Okay, Jackie Powell is not here, so we will proceed without her. Now, we have questions for you guys, and you know what your limitations are as to what you can and cannot say, correct? Correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's an inside joke. Well, once again, we're going to vote the entire ballot. We're going to vote the entire ballot. All right, that includes the judges. So we have circuit court judges and we have county court judges. Both are very, very important. So I have a few questions here for you. We would ask that you limit your answers to 2 minutes. We're going to start by introductions, and then we'll go to the questions. So to be fair, we're going to start with protocol. We always start with the circuit court judges, which are the higher court judges, and then we'll move over to county court. Ladies first.
This is Stephanie.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Group 38. The groups simply relate to the seats. There are approximately 90 judges in Broward County. The seat that I'm running to retire after 23 years on the bench. So I have picked up the baton and I am moving it forward. I'm a 5th-generation native of South Florida. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother in a pretty strict disciplinarian home. Despite any obstacle we ever faced, education was always the priority. In fact, my mother and I graduated from college in the very same year. My mom stayed here in South Florida to raise my 2 younger brothers, and I went on to law school. I went to Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so I am a proud Jaguar. I have that HBCU experience in my background. I returned here 22 years ago to practice law. I began my legal career as a local, state, and federal criminal prosecutor. In 6 years, I've been managing my own law firm. I handle labor and employment and white-collar criminal defense work in state and federal court. What sets me apart from my opponent, who unfortunately is not here this evening, is that I am the only person in my race who's been both a plaintiff and a defense attorney, handling both civil and criminal matters in both state and federal court. I'm also the only one that served as a special master, meaning I've already conducted adversarial hearings and issued my recommendations in the form of findings of fact and conclusions of law. I share that with you so that you know I'm ready to do this job on day one. Stephanie Camille Moon, candidate for Circuit Court Judge, Group 38. Remember, once in a blue moon.
Good evening, everyone. If you haven't guessed it,
None of us are running against each other. I just want to clarify. I want to thank the Deltas for putting this event together. And so I want to begin that way. You know, I'm in the runoff now. What that means is that
H. James Curry.
Oh, okay. What that means is that a significant amount of you voted so that I would be in the runoff. So I want to begin by thanking all of you who voted in the primary and allowed me to excel to this level. My name is H. James Curry. I've been a senior attorney in South Broward for approximately 22 years. Let me tell you what that means. That means as an attorney, my focus has been all juvenile issues. I've focused on things that like the Stoneman Douglas situation. My agency is one of the agencies that get into intervention programs that focus on things like our burgeoning opioid problem, that focus on issues like mental health. And the reason why I bring that up is because prior to that, prior to my experience with the department, I worked 10 years in New York with the Legal Aid Society as a paralegal. And that led me to where I am today. But the real issue is that most of the judges that we elect have prosecutorial background. The kind of backgrounds that I have dealing with kids is a specialty that's needed in our courts. We need people with this type of expertise to exercise these type of programs, which our community definitely need. My name is H. James Curry. I'm on the ballot. I will be honored if you vote for me. Thank you so very much.
Good evening. I'm a drummer, not a singer. Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'd like to thank the Delta Sigma Theta chapter, South Broward here for having us. I always love an opportunity to speak to the people. So thank you once again. My name is, a little bit about me is I was working just like my father. My dad owns an auto repair shop. I come from blue collar roots. I'm the only kid in the family. I'm very happy to have come up at the local schools and graduate here locally. A little bit about my career. I started as a state prosecutor here with Michael J. Sachs, working my way up through the Major Crimes Unit, representing victims for the sexual battery cases. Some of the worst cases you've seen, I've represented those victims. So I've had that experience. And then on the flip side of that, I'm now a public defender. So I have that perspective, and I think that's what I bring to the table that's probably most important for everyone in this room. I think a lot of us out there have been in a situation where we don't feel like people are listening, especially in the court system. I think there's a lot of us out there, and raise your hand, would you agree? I think there's a lot of us out there that feel as if our voice isn't heard. And I think that goes across many different people feel that way. If they're not attorneys, if they're lay persons, they call county court the people's court. And those are oftentimes, that's the court where people that don't have attorneys come to court to basically cry their grievances to a judge. I've talked to a lot of people over the course of almost 18 months of campaigning throughout the county, talking and trying to talk to just about everyone in all the communities, representing everyone across the board. And I think the consensus is people want to know that their time, efforts, and energy when they come to court, whether they're represented or not, that they're listened to, that they're given a fair shake, and that they know the judge that they're appearing from is going to treat them fairly, regardless of what they look like, the color of their skin, the size of their wallet, their age, their sex, their background. None of that should matter. I'm running because I feel everyone should have a voice. So I'd ask you to keep me in consideration. Please, I'm the only one with trial experience in my group. The only one that's worth for both sides of the case in my group. The only one that's expensive and well-run. I know what it takes to run it. have a blessing. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm attorney Richard Castillo. I'm the surrogate for Allison Gilman, who happens to be my girlfriend. And I want to tell you, I like your church, it's got style. Allison's running for County Court Judge, Group 19, and experience matters. We've both been attorneys for over 25 years. At 5 years, we were learning our stuff.
On the stage now is
we were
Richard
good,
Castillo,
we were better.
surrogate for Allison Gilman.
Experience matters when you're trying to be a judge because you need to be able to have a well-rounded basis. Allison has twice the experience as Jackie Powell. I like Jackie. She's been an attorney for 12 years. Allison has 26. That's a lot of time. Allison has been an attorney in criminal defense, family law, and personal injury. She's been fighting for her clients for 26 years in front of juries, judges, against prosecutors, against judges. She was a public defender for 5 years. I kid you not, that is a hard job. People call you public pretender, not a real lawyer. You have to convince your client you're willing to fight for them. Allison has done it her entire career. Experience matters, and Allison has it. It's not my forte. After being a public defender, she opened an all-female law firm because she wanted to empower women in the law place, and a lot of the women who work for her opened their own firms. Allison has been a mentor to many people. She's been a foster mom. She worked as a volunteer for JAFCO, in distress, SAD. She has volunteered for animal rights groups. She has done everything you can possibly do as in the legal community. She is also a mother of a 9-year-old daughter. She has our dog Biscuit, who's you'll see on all the palm cards. Endorsements are an amazing thing. If you want to really learn about who's going to be a great judge, go down to Broward County Courthouse. Talk to lawyers. We are there every day. We know who's good. We know who can do the job. There are so many judges who are great. Allison has the potential to be great. The last thing you want on the bench is a judges do not know what they're doing. Jackie Powell will do a wonderful job. Allison has the experience to do a better job. I believe in her wholeheartedly. I think experience counts. When you're looking for a judge, give Allison a chance. She'll prove your greatness. Thank you.
Thank you. These are my next questions. So thank you so much. So at this point, we want to find out about the endorsements that you have received. So if you have not received the traditional endorsement, tell us who gave you an endorsement. It may not be the traditional ones, it may be a friend, it may be a bar association, but let's talk endorsement. Let's start with the county court candidates.
I was endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association, the firefighters, the professional firefighters of Broward County, the AFL-CIO, union workers, the Hispanic vote, additionally the Broward Teachers Union, and most recently I've received an endorsement from, I believe, the Caribbean attorneys. So aside from that, I've also received some support across the board with regard to, I believe, the Vice Mayor of Fort Lauderdale, Mr. Ben Sorensen. I believe there's a number of commissioners that support my candidacy. There's really, I'm very proud and really thankful. I don't want to go on a laundry list, but I'm very humbled by the support I've had across the board and throughout the community. I think I'm most happy to have the support of my coworkers, people I work with across the board. As I mentioned, I've worked in both offices. And in addition to that, on the criminal side, I've also done civil litigation work. So I'm very happy that I do have that support. I think it goes to my reputation in the community, my reputation of being fair and even-keeled. And I think, again, those are going to make great qualities to be a judge that can be fair to everyone in the community. Thank you.
On behalf of Allison, she has received the endorsements of the Police Benevolence Association, all the police officers, all the firemen, the teachers union. If you go to the courthouse and you talk to anybody down there, she has received the endorsement of virtually everybody in the courthouse. She is one of the most gifted trial lawyers you'll ever see work. She has defended thousands and she has endorsements from
Start with the circuit court justice.
I've been here with AFLC, I'll be there, Lord Parish Prosecutor, Commissioner Dale Holness, school board, several school board representative, I don't have the list with me, but, and a number of people from the community.
Good evening. Let's see, endorsements. I've been endorsed by the Sun Sentinel, the Broward Teachers Union, Broward County AFL-CIO, Latino Vote, and Broward Allied Medical PAC, and half a dozen mayors throughout the county. Mayor Skip Campbell, who just passed away earlier this week, the mayor of Sunrise, Mike Ryan, I think 3 or 4 others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, now the hard question. We gave you a couple of softball ones. One of the things that folks in this room, when they get in contact or come in contact with the judges, they want to know that you have had some personal experiences. What is the one personal experience that you have had that has made you want to be a judge? And you can speak on behalf of Allison if you'd like, because you're going to start first.
I think the experience that Allison has used the most to become a judge is she wants to help people. And when you're a young public defender, and you're learning your task to be a lawyer, you have an opportunity to be in front of judges who can guide you to be a better attorney. In county court where Allison wants to work, these judges have a responsibility to try to, to decide, be fair and impartial to everybody, and to be to follow the law. They have a chance to actually teach and guide young lawyers to make them better. Allison wants the opportunity to do so. And having worked with great judges in county court and circuit court like Andrew Siegel, she feels she has mentors in place that are going to allow her to be great. And it's for these reasons that Allison feels that she would be the best candidate out there, because she wants to teach. She's not doing this for any other reason besides to help people and teach. And to me, that's noble.
I think for me, as a practicing courtroom attorney, I think if you're not familiar with attorneys in general, it's a very compartmentalized profession. There's attorneys that sit behind a desk and do great work, business litigation. There's a lot of work that gets done behind the scenes, in which an individual may never walk into a courtroom. That wasn't my career. I spent the last 12 years dedicating my career to public service, whether on one side of being a prosecutor for victims to the side now of being a public defender representing indigent folks. But I can tell you, as a practicing attorney, I can remember a moment before a judge where I really worked very hard on my task at hand. I researched the issue, I prepared the motion, I lined up my witnesses and prepared them and really did my homework, really prepared like one would prepare. And the judge had ruled against me. And I remember thinking, well, wow, is this person even listening? I had a really good argument. I really did a lot of work on this, hours and hours, and kind of took over my whole weekend to make sure I had it all squared away. But instead of being upset, that judge took the time to explain how they came about their ruling. And I thought that was really poignant, because up until that point, I had never experienced that. And that made all the difference. And I can think of other times where, that situation where you're thinking, is this person even listening to me? Whether you're a lawyer, but probably more importantly, just a regular person that doesn't have legal background or experience or familiarity with the system, having that opportunity to know, is this person listening to me? I recently had a client that told me, thank you, Mr. Demery. No one's really ever paid attention to what I had to say. This was a young man involved with drugs, and I was able to help give him a voice. And he said, thank you for giving me a voice. And that was a true story, and I just thought, wow, you know, a lot of people feel this way. So, and I experienced this as an attorney, so that was a big part of it for me. I want everyone to feel like they got an even shake. Thank you.
There are actually several personal experiences that I've had that have played a part in impacting my decision to be a judge. But the one that comes to mind right now is I have two younger brothers, as I said earlier. And one of my brothers was hanging out with some friends, and the friends decided to break into someone's house, and they all got caught and they were all arrested. When my brother went to court, he explained the situation to the judge, and the judge listened. The judge believed him, and he had the opportunity to exercise judicial discretion in how he resolved the case. And so there were 4 boys who had broken into someone's house. My brother was the one who was in the car, and there were 2 others, and then there was one who actually went inside. So he ruled in a way that he held each one responsible for what they had done. And exercising that judicial discretion gave my brother the opportunity to learn the lesson that he needed to learn, but also it didn't ruin his life. He wasn't convicted. He was able to do probation, community service, pay restitution, and then get on the right track. And so that experience is the one that came to mind about a personal experience that makes me want to be that person who can exercise that judicial discretion, because I know what it's like to be on the other side of the bench.
I have to agree with everything everyone said. What my experience has been over my 32 years as coming in and out of courtrooms in different courtrooms. And one of the things that made me want to be a judge, and it was leading over a series of years, is that I saw certain communities and certain people being marginalized in the court in a way that did not seem right to me. It's nice when the judge exercises discretion. It's nice when a lawyer pays attention to you, but nobody should be marginalized because of how they look or because of the color of their skin. I just see over a period of time, I've seen, and just for example, sometimes in dependency court, and one of the things that really rubbed me the wrong way was when a parent standing up with their kids right there, and the judge is going through what's scrutinizing the parent in front of the child. That I think that I just want to be able to level the playing field. I want to make sure that in my capacity as a judge, no one is marginalized, that everyone is respected, that parents are given the respect in front of their children to be the leaders of their home. So I saw some of those things and I really didn't like them. And so that's what kind of led me to want to, if you can do more and something's needed in your community, you must do more.
All right, so this is our closing. You have 30 seconds to tell us why we should vote for you. Why don't you start? I think it's working now.
Hello?
Yes.
I think the bottom line is I'm the only one in this race that has daily courtroom experience. Again, talking to those that may not be familiar with what we do as attorneys and going in and out of court. I'm a courtroom attorney. I go there Monday through Friday. I'm there every single day of the week. I have clients every day of the week. You pick up things over the years of being in a courtroom. These are things you can't pick up from sitting behind a desk. You just can't. There's nothing against that, but I'm the better choice because I'm there in the trenches. I'd ask you to keep me in mind. I've worked both sides of the case. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, because I've been to court every day of the week. Please keep me in mind, and again, vote that whole ticket. Please keep Demery in your memory.
When it comes to judges, they need three things. One, you'd have to be smart. Dumb judges make dumb decisions. We don't want dumbness on the bench. Second, you have to be fair. Fair is an art form. It's easy to be hard, it's hard to be fair. Fair is being able to look at both sides of the equation and decide what is the right move, what's the just move, and what does the law say. And lastly, you have to be compassionate. People that are going in front of judges are scared. It's a very important time in their life. If you don't have compassion, you should not be doing the job. Allison checks all 3 boxes. Please get going. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start out with the obvious. I'm here. Okay. So you have to, if you want to do a job, you have to show up. For the interview, you have to show up each and every day. You have to give it your all. The reason why you should vote for me is because I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to be there. I'm going to make the hard decisions, and I'm going to respect the people that come from. Thank you.
In Broward County, there are approximately 90 judges. 9 of them are Black. When Alumni Homes retires, there will only be 8. I think that our bench should reflect the community that it serves. But I'm not asking you to vote for me just because I'm Black. I'm more than qualified to do this job. I've been practicing law for 22 years. I've done both sides, civil, criminal, state, federal. I can do this job and I'm ready to do it on day 1. That's why you should vote for me.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Commissioners, if they will come up. Candidates for commission. That was fortuitous. Come quickly, please.
We have a few more candidates for Dania Beach Commissioner. I'll announce them as they come up, as we do not have a lower third for them.
As they come, once again, my commercial, vote the entire. All right. So the commissioners, we will not be asking you questions. We're going to just give you a bit of time to tell us 2 things. 2 things. 1, we want you to introduce yourself. And 2, tell us why the citizens of Dania Beach should vote for you. Okay, is that fair? Got a question? Got it. So Lori, since you're ready to sit by yourself, why don't you start?
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Laura Llewellyn. I am running for Dania Beach City Commission. I am a practicing attorney. I have lived in Dania Beach since 2005 with my husband. We live off of Griffin Road, off in the western part of the town. And I'm currently the chair of the Planning and Zoning Board, have been for the last 2 years. I'm also a member of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs Board. My husband's a member of the Marine Advisory Board. I personally am also a member of the Griffin Civic Association, and I also go to a number of other board meetings. The reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that I know as much as I can about the issues going on in the city through the different boards, and find out what people are talking about and what the problems are, what the issues are. I've also spent a lot of time meeting people in town. I've been very active in a number of areas in the city. I started because I was impacted by the airport. And I started out fighting for the people that lived in my neighborhood because of the airport expansion and the fact that it was impacting all of us with noise and the commercialization of our area and a lot of those issues. I have continued, however, getting involved in more things within the city because it's something that I just really want to do. I was raised by a single mom. I'm an only child. I am the first person in my family to have a professional degree. I'm the second person in my family to have a bachelor's degree. I've been working full-time since I was 15 years old. While I worked my way through high school, I worked my way through college, took a little time off. I had a career working for an insurance company and moved my way up the ranks, and then I paid off my student loans and decided that I wanted to go back to school. And I went back to school to become a lawyer. I went to the night program at Nova Southeastern University, which is a 4-year program, while I worked during the day in a law firm as paralegal. And I did that program in 3.5 years, took the bar exam, passed it on first try. I've been a practicing lawyer for 15 years. I've been working hard my entire life, and now it's my turn to work hard for the citizens of Dania Beach, and that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce, and I grew up in Dania Beach here around the age of 6 with my family and I. Now I'm raising my family here. I also went to South Broward High, Olson Middle, Hollywood Central. My kids go to Frost Park, PJ Melly, and they're growing up here. I also started selling real estate right after high school from South Broward. For 26 years now I've been selling. I started with the founder of Dania Beach, the Ryan family. I worked at AJ Ryan Realty for 9 years. I also delivered pizza for 3 years with Antonio's Pizzeria. I've done a lot. I've played in these streets right here. I've played in all around Dania as well as Hollywood. The slogan for my campaign is integrity, service, and roots. The integrity started at a young age. My father's a Marine. I thought I was going to go into the military, but I didn't. I did 4 years of high school. And being a successful realtor and closing on, I don't know the exact numbers of real estate transactions, to first-time buyers to sell to that. That ties in with the second thing that I'm using for my campaign is integrity and service. Part of the reason that I'm doing this is I love to be in service. It builds a feeling inside of me when I help others, and I believe this is a good platform to do that, just to serve on a higher level and to serve my community and be a voice for the people, all the people. Rich Albany sees no color. I come from an interracial marriage. I've been married now for 15 years to my wife, Rosa. She's from the Dominican Republic. We've been together 17 years. We have 2 little boys, 10 and 13 years old, Owen and Evan. And I also have a schnauzer. Rich loves the animals. And I say that because I do care about not only the planet Earth, but the environment, the animals, and I believe it's not just a local, being on the commission is not just locally, but it affects everywhere around. People look at our city of Dania Beach, and we can influence things that happen throughout the world. So all the way from little straws to fixing erosion problems on the beach and beyond. And my time is up. I can go on and speak for a long time, and I hope I'll stay for a little bit. Hopefully I can speak to you later.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I've been at early voting, so I feel a little off the game, so hopefully I'm not. My name is Lauren Odman, and I'm running for your Dania Beach City Commission. A little bit about myself. I'm a pediatric trauma nurse at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital for the last 13, 14 years. I've traveled all over the world being a nurse, pediatric nurse in different areas in post-disaster regions. So I lived in Gonaïves and Port-au-Prince, Haiti for about a year and a half of my life. But I've lived in Dania Beach, like I said, for 16 years, going back and forth. And I'm just so excited to, I have a son in my life. I love how I got him. Thank God for him. But just to give you a quick bit about myself, about my experience, I've been on your planning and zoning board for the last year with Ms. Llewellyn. I've been boots on the ground. I've been boots on the ground for the last year. That means walking from where I was living on the eastmost side of Dania Beach all the way to 441. It took me about 2 years because I had that 4-year-old in tow. When I started off, it was me and a 4-year-old. That was really difficult. These days I'm walking with 8 to 10 women, mothers. If I win, it is because of those mothers, it's
because of those women in the Southeast and the Northeast community that have chosen to walk with me, who have supported me, because this is hard. This is hard work. It's been 5 days, 4 of early voting. Been out there with Jim. I'm cautiously optimistic, and it's a lot of hard work. But I really feel that you have 2 votes, and I hope that you will give me a chance, because this is a really exciting time for Dania Beach. This is a really exciting time for the state of Florida, and I just can't wait to see what happens. So, Gail, thanks.
All right. So just a point of clarification, are you all running for the same seat?
There's 2 seats open, there's 2 votes.
2 seats, well, 2 seats open.
6 candidates are running.
All right.
2 seats are available. Your top vote getter will automatically become mayor for 2 years. The second highest vote getter will become vice mayor for 2 years.
All right, great. So remember who's here.
Please remember who's here.
Please show them. Thank you very much, and you can return. Let's give all of our candidates a great big round of applause. So at this time, I want to give a few closing remarks of my own as a point of personal privilege. So one of the things that I know that this election, this midterm election, if you haven't figured it out by now, is one of the most important elections that we will ever see, probably in our lifetime. And I know as a volunteer and a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, we know what to do. We just encourage you to do this. I want to commend my sorors for taking the time to put this together. And this chapter, you have to know that this chapter is very, very active. This is my I call it my wannabe chapter, because if it wasn't for my mother being in the Greater Miami chapter, who would kill me if I ever changed chapter, so this is certainly one that I would look at very closely. But you guys do a great job, and we want to just thank you on behalf of the community that you serve, taking the time to do this. So let's give the Deltas a hand. So this time I'm going to ask the president of the South Broward chapter, Kim Gaines, the hardest for Delta, to come forth, and she has some closing remarks. Kim.
Of the South Broward Alumnae chapter, Kim Gaines, at the stand.
Make an informed decision on the issues. Did we do that? And then I said we would get some information that will help us make an informed choice on our candidates. Did we accomplish that? Wonderful. Well, first I'm going to ask for all the members of the South Broward Alumnae chapter please stand and take a bow and say hello to everyone. And then I want to give a special shout out to our sorors who are members in this chapter, our soror Marilyn Franks, our soror Grace Turnquest, over there here, and soror Valerie Baker. I also want to give a special shout out for the shepherd of this flock. Where is the bishop? He's downstairs too. All right. Well, thank you, Bishop Booton, for allowing us to host this event. And your house of worship. We really appreciate it. We appreciate everyone who has come out. I just want to remind you that that this election, several people have said, is the most. Remember, there is power in your voice, and your vote is your voice. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate you so much. Please follow us on Facebook. We have another announcement. Oh, our sponsors, I'm sorry, we have to recognize the people who make all of this possible. I want to thank the TJ Reddick Law Bar Association, the Caribbean Lawyers Bar Association, and the Haitian Bar Association. We also want to thank the technology people who make it possible for us to broadcast to the community. We thank them so much. And then I want to also give a special thank you to my social action chairs, Sarah Nikki Simon, Sarah Wilder, to everyone who is a member of the social action committee for putting this together. We had a fantastic time. We had a wonderful turnout this evening. And I thank you all for coming. We're going to just hold one little special minute so we can thank the bishop personally. Okay, and we're gonna, of course, always as Deltas, we have to get a picture. For everything that we do, so we would do that.
So, President, League of Women Voters.
Oh, and we also need to thank the League of Women Voters. Like I said, we got lots of information. Bishop the third, can you please come up and just give us a blessing before we depart the place? Yeah, please. Oh, and thank you so very much. I want to personally thank you for allowing us to come into your place of worship. We really, truly appreciate it. And appreciate it.
I know we're ready to go, so we can all stand, amen. As a matter of fact, let's hold hands together if you don't mind.
Blessing given by Isaac
Father,
and the third bishop of the church.
We can't help us to realize the aspects of you and you have people. Father, help us to acknowledge you in everything we do. You said, acknowledge you in everything we do, that you will direct that path. And Father, if we ever needed you, we need you right now. Right now. And as we leave this building, and never ever in your presence, we plead the blood of Jesus over every individual right now. We plead the blood of Jesus over all of our properties and possessions, our neighborhoods, our neighbors, our children, the teachers and classmates, the food they eat, the education they receive, and everything, God. We take nothing for granted. Father, help us to be real about you. Help us to put you first in everything. We thank you, God, right now. In Jesus' name, we believe. In Jesus' name, we receive. In Jesus' name, we confess, Lord. Amen. I tell you, baby, I love you.
So if I could have the camera, back to camera 3, producer. Thank you all so much for coming out this evening. I really appreciate, we really appreciate you being here. We appreciate you sharing this out. We apologize. The Wi-Fi here was extremely weak tonight, which is why you saw glitches and why there was a little bit of back and forth and some sound issues because it was very weak. However, and they're making an announcement. Hold tight.
Cookies.
They're announcing that there's food. That's always a good thing. Pasta salad, cookies, etc. So thank you. And there's not a lot of light here. Okay, there we go. There's my light. It's about to cut out, but let me say thank you once again. Let me say special thanks to the Dania Church of God, also the League of Women Voters who made the presentation on the amendments in the beginning. We also need to thank our promotional sponsors, the TJ Reddick Bar Association, the Caribbean Bar Association, and the Haitian Lawyers Association. So thank you to all of you for that. And with that, I want to say, please follow us on social media. If you want more information about the different events we can do,
that we do, please visit us on our website, which is dstsouthbroward.org. There you can also find information on our social media. So we're on Facebook, as you can see, we are on Instagram, and we are also on Twitter. So please follow us, and there's my light, which means I need to stop talking. So once again, on behalf of the South Broward Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we thank you for watching this. Thank you to everybody on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Thank you so much. And we will see you for our next live stream, which will be held November 29th in honor of World AIDS Day. So information will be on our website. Please check then as to the time. As for now, I'll say goodbye. Cheers.
Thank you.